The first time I died, I didn't die under a truck, or in a hospital bed, or with some dramatic last breath while rain tapped against a window like the universe was trying to be poetic. I died standing at the back gate of Riverside No. 3 High School, holding my cracked blue bus card in one hand and my final exam admission ticket in the other, watching my cousin Mia cry so convincingly that even I almost believed her. Almost. That was the problem with Mia. She never screamed when she lied. She trembled. She never demanded when she stole. She begged. She never looked cruel when she ruined me. She looked helpless, soft, pitiful, the kind of girl teachers called sensitive and aunties called poor thing, and boys called too kind for this world. And I, her older cousin by 3 months, her roommate for 2 years, her unpaid tutor, her emergency wallet, her walking umbrella, her spare lunchbox, her backup uniform, her substitute daughter, whenever her mother needed someone to blame, had spent 17 years believing that if someone looked fragile, then protecting them was the same thing as being good. So when she stood at the school gate that morning in my first life, red-eyed, breathless, whispering, "Sarah, please, I forgot my bus card again. Just lend me yours. I'll run to the west gate and come straight back before roll call," I handed it over. I handed over the card that had my student transport pass linked to it. I handed over the one thing that proved I had arrived on campus before the final attendance check. I handed over my morning, my exam, my scholarship, and my future, all because my cousin made her lower lip shake like a wounded animal. 10 minutes later, she was gone. 20 minutes later, the West Gate security system logged my card exiting campus. 30 minutes later, the final roll call started. 40 minutes later, the supervisor looked at the screen, frowned at my name, and said, "Sarah Lynn, absent from campus." I stood right in front of him. I was holding my exam ticket. My ID card was around my neck. My name was on the desk list, but the system said I had left. And in our school, on the day of the National University Entrance mock final, the system was God. I remembered every second after that with such clarity that when I opened my eyes again in my second life, I could taste the chalk dust from that morning on my tongue. In my first life, I argued until my throat burned. I told them Mia borrowed my card. I said she must have used the Westgate scanner by mistake. I begged them to check the security cameras. But the teacher in charge only sighed like I was inconveniencing him because Mia had already returned by then, clutching my bus card to her chest, looking pale and frightened as if she were the victim. "Cousin, why are you saying that?" she whispered, and the entire exam hall turned toward me. "You gave it to me yesterday after school, because mine was broken. I thought you told the teacher." That sentence was a knife wrapped in cotton. She didn't accuse me loudly. She didn't grin. She just looked confused enough to make my panic look like guilt. My aunt arrived before lunch, slapped me outside the administration office, and cried to the principal that I had always been jealous of Mia's better grades. My uncle stood behind her, silent as furniture. My mother came last, still wearing her supermarket apron, and instead of asking me what happened, she asked, "Why would Mia lie about something so serious?" By evening, I was marked as having violated exam attendance procedure. By the end of the week, my scholarship recommendation was withdrawn. By the end of the month, Mia took the seat I had been promised at the Provincial Summer Academy. By the end of the year, she entered the university I had dreamed of, using the extra points from a competition report I had written for her because she cried over formatting. And years later, when I found out she had missed final roll call in middle school once before by borrowing someone else's card and letting them take the blame, I was already too far under the wreckage to climb out. My death came 5 years later, quiet and embarrassing, the way failed girls die in families that prefer clean stories. I was 22, working double shifts at a convenience store near the bus terminal, studying at night for a transfer exam I could never quite afford to take, when Mia appeared on the television above the instant noodle shelf in a cream blazer, smiling beside the dean of her university. "Young women in science need perseverance," she said into the microphone. I came from a difficult family situation, but my cousin once taught me that opportunities belong to the person brave enough to take them. I laughed so hard I dropped a box of bottled tea. The customer in aisle 3 stared. I remember thinking brave enough to take them. Yes, that was exactly what she had done. She had taken my card, my roll call, my seat, my report, my future, my mother's trust, my own belief in my memory. That night, after closing, I walked home in freezing rain because my bus card balance was empty. A delivery van slid through the intersection near the old station. The headlights were huge and white. My last thought was not profound. It was not about forgiveness. It was, absurdly, I should have kept my card. Then came the sound of metal, the smell of wet asphalt, and darkness. When I woke up, I was 17 again, standing in front of the bathroom mirror in my aunt's apartment, my hair tied in the same uneven ponytail I had worn on the morning everything collapsed. My school blazer hung on the door hook. My exam admission ticket was tucked under the clear phone case on the sink. My blue bus card sat beside the toothbrush cup, scratched across the corner where Mia had once peeled off the sticker with my name. For 3 full seconds, I did not breathe. Then the hallway outside exploded with my aunt's voice.
Sera, Mia.
Hurry up. Final roll call is strict today. If either of you miss it, don't come crying to me. The words cracked through me like thunder. I gripped the sink so hard my nails bent.
Today.
Not a memory. Not a dream.
Today.
The day Mia borrowed my bus card. The day she missed final roll call again and dragged me under her. The day every adult chose the girl who looked helpless over the girl who sounded angry. I looked down at the bus card, and for the first time in 2 lives, I did not feel guilty for touching what belonged to me. I slipped it into the inner pocket of my blazer, zipped the pocket shut, then pinned my ID card to my shirt with 2 safety pins instead of 1. When Mia knocked on the bathroom door 5 seconds later and sang, "Cousin, are you done? I need to borrow your hair tie," I smiled at my reflection. My smile looked strange on my old face.
Too calm. Too grown. Too dead.
Mia began the morning gently because she always sharpened the blade before showing it. She floated into the kitchen with her hair half curled and her eyes already glossy, like she had rehearsed being overwhelmed before breakfast. My aunt placed 2 boiled eggs on the table and gave both to Mia without noticing.
Eat more.
Your exam brain needs protein. I poured myself hot water and watched the steam rise. In my first life, I would have waited for someone to remember me. I would have joked, "Auntie, am I invisible?" and then laughed first so nobody had to feel bad. This time, I took a slice of toast from the center plate, spread peanut butter thickly, and ate while Mia blinked at me. It was the smallest rebellion in the world, but she saw it. Her eyes flicked from my face to my blazer pocket, then back again. "Sarah," she said softly, "you're so quiet today. Are you nervous?" My aunt clicked her tongue. What does she have to be nervous about? Her grades are stable. It's Mia I worry about. She puts too much pressure on herself. Mia lowered her head, the perfect picture of modest pain. I just don't want to disappoint everyone. The old me would have comforted her. The old me would have said, "You won't." The old me would have offered my notes, my pen, my seat on the bus, my spine. I drank my water instead and said, "Then don't." The kitchen went quiet. My aunt's chopsticks stopped halfway to her mouth.
Mia se lashes flattered.
"What?" she asked. Her voice was tiny, but I had lived long enough to hear the hook under it. I wiped peanut butter from my thumb. "You said you don't want to disappoint everyone. So don't. Arrive early. Bring your things. Follow the rules." My aunt frowned. "Sarah, why are you speaking like that so early in the morning?" I looked at the clock. 6:42. In my first life, by 6:48, Mia had begun searching her bag dramatically. By 6:51, she had whispered that her bus card was missing. By 6:54, my aunt had said, "Just lend her yours, your cousin's." By 7:06, Mia had scanned out through the west gate with my card. Time did not feel like time anymore. It felt like a corridor full of traps I already knew the location of. I stood and rinsed my cup. Mia watched me closely now, no longer sleepy, no longer fragile. The performance was still on her face, but behind it, something alert had opened one eye. That was the thing nobody noticed about Mia. She was not chaotic. She was precise. She forgot what helped her. She lost what forced others to rescue her. She cried only when witnesses were present. She never misplaced the phone with 3 passwords, the lipstick hidden in her pencil case, or the USB drive full of files she swore she wrote herself. She only lost cards, keys, assignments, tickets, and responsibility. The trap sprang in the elevator. My aunt had gone back inside for her phone. My uncle was downstairs starting the car, though he would only drive Mia to the bus stop and call it support. Mia and I stood shoulder to shoulder in the narrow mirrored box, both in navy uniforms, both with exam bags, both silent enough for the elevator cables to hum above us. Between the 10th and 9th floors, she inhaled sharply. Oh no, there it was. The little crack in her voice. The old cue. I looked at her reflection, but did not turn. She patted her skirt pocket, then her blazer, then opened her bag with trembling fingers. No, 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 her notebooks spilled forward. A packet of tissues fell. 2 pens rolled across the elevator floor. She looked up at me with eyes already wet. Sarah, I can't find my bus card. In my first life, my heart had dropped before she even asked. This time, my heartbeat stayed steady. It sounded almost bored. That's unfortunate, I said. The elevator reached the 7th floor and stopped for Mrs. Han from 703, who entered carrying vegetables and immediately became an audience. Mia's eyes flashed with relief. Witness acquired. Cousin, she whispered, louder than necessary. Can I borrow yours just until we reach school? Please? I'll give it back at the gate. Mrs. Han looked at me in the mirror, interested. I zipped my blazer pocket higher.
No.
There are words that are small until you say them to the wrong person. No is only 2 letters, but in that elevator it landed like a chair thrown through glass. Mia stared at me, as if I had slapped her. Mrs. Han's eyebrows rose. Sarah, Mia said, and now she sounded genuinely shocked, which almost made me laugh. She had prepared for hesitation. She had prepared for irritation. She had prepared for me to sigh and say, fine, but return it quickly. She had not prepared for the door to stay shut. Please, she said again, turning toward Mrs. Han just enough to make sure the older woman saw her trembling hands. Final roll call is today. If I'm late, I can't sit the exam. I don't know what happened. It was in my bag last night. I nodded. Then go back and find it. Her mouth parted. The elevator descended past the 5th floor. We don't have time. Then use your phone wallet. My phone wallet is linked to my old number. Then ask Auntie. Mom will get angry. Then accept that. Mrs. Han let out a tiny sound, half cough, half gasp. Mia's tears gathered, round and shiny. Sarah, why are you being so cold? We're family. I turned to face her fully.
Exactly.
So you should know I need my own card for my own final roll call. She flinched at the phrase final roll call, and that was when I knew. Until that second, some foolish part of me had wondered whether my rebirth was a warning against an accident, whether Mia's betrayal had begun as panic and turned cruel only after opportunity opened. But her flinch was too fast, too familiar. She knew what the card could do. She knew the system. She knew the scanner logs. She knew because she had used this trick before, maybe not only on me, maybe not only once. Her eyes went soft again so quickly that Mrs. Han probably missed it, but I saw the girl behind the mask look out and calculate. The elevator doors opened. My aunt rushed out of the apartment corridor behind us, waving her phone. Why are you two standing there? Go. Mia spun toward her mother and burst into tears so cleanly it deserved applause. Mom, I can't find my bus card, and Sarah won't lend me hers. My aunt's expression changed in the old way, disappointment rushing toward me before facts had even put on their shoes.
Sera là.
Don't be selfish on an exam day. The lobby smelled like floor cleaner and rain. I stepped out of the elevator, looked at my aunt, and said, I'm not lending my identification-linked transport card to anyone today. My aunt blinked. It's not identification. It logs entry and exit at school gates during exam control. That sentence did something beautiful. It made everyone pause. Mrs. Han, who had been pretending not to listen, stopped pretending. The security uncle at the lobby desk looked up from his tea. Mia's tears slowed for half a breath before she squeezed them out again. My aunt frowned. but uncertainly now. What nonsense. It's just for the bus. No, I said, keeping my voice calm because anger had failed me in my first life. School notice, page 2, line 6. During final exam control, student transport cards registered in the campus access system will be used as supplementary attendance data. If my card scans somewhere I'm not, I become responsible for explaining it. I'm not taking that risk. My aunt's mouth tightened. Are you accusing Mia of something? There it was, the family court where evidence was rude and tears were testimony. In my first life, I had said no, of course not, and stepped backward into the trap to prove I was kind. This time, I looked at Mia, then at my aunt. I'm saying I'm responsible for my own exam materials. Mia is responsible for hers. Mia pressed a hand to her chest as if wounded. I would never hurt you. Then you won't ask me to risk myself. The silence after that was so thick, I could hear the rain tapping the lobby windows. My uncle honked from outside. My aunt grabbed Mia's wrist.
Fine.
We'll drive you directly to school. Sarah, take the bus yourself since you're so independent. She meant it as punishment. In my first life, I would have panicked at being separated, afraid they would call me ungrateful all day. This time, it was a gift wrapped in spite. I bowed slightly to Mrs. Hahn, stepped into the rain, and walked to the bus stop alone. The air was cold enough to sting my cheeks. I kept one hand over my blazer pocket the entire way, feeling the hard rectangle of my bus card beneath the fabric like a pulse. At the stop, students from our school clustered under umbrellas, whispering formulas, checking pencils, comparing admission tickets. Nobody knew that the entire direction of my life had changed in an elevator with one word. Nobody knew that 5 years of grief had collapsed into a single decision: keep the card. When the bus arrived, I scanned in with my own hand. The beep was ordinary, flat, mechanical, but to me, it sounded like a verdict being reversed. By 7:24, I reached the school's east gate. In my first life, Mia and I had arrived together, and she had clung to my arm until the moment she slipped away. This time, I walked in alone. The scanner flashed green under my card. Student status. Entered. I did not move away immediately. I looked up at the small black camera above the gate and held my card beside my face for one extra second. The security guard frowned. Student, don't block the gate. Sorry, I said, and stepped through. Inside, the campus was unnaturally neat for an exam day. Red banners hung across the courtyard. Final mock examination discipline creates final success. Teachers in armbands directed students toward their assigned buildings. The loudspeaker played a cheerful instrumental song that made everyone look more anxious. I walked straight to Building C, but not to my classroom. First, I stopped at the administration office window and asked for a printed copy of my campus entry record. The clerk, a bored woman with orange nails, barely looked up. Why? My homeroom teacher told us to confirm our access record before final roll call if we had transport card issues in our household. This was not exactly true, but it was not exactly false either. We did have transport card issues in our household. She sighed, typed my student number, and printed a small slip. Entered East Gate, 7 hours, 24 minutes, and 13 seconds. No exit record. I folded it into my admission ticket sleeve. Then I went to class. My homeroom teacher, Mr. Zhao, stood at the front of class 12-4 with a clipboard and the expression of a man already tired of children ruining his morning. He had been one of the adults who failed me hardest in my first life, not because he hated me, but because he liked convenience more than truth. When Mia cried, he comforted her. When I argued, he warned me about attitude. People like Mr. Zhao did not need to be villains to destroy someone. They only needed to prefer the version of events that required less paperwork. As I entered, he looked up. Sarah, good.
Sit down.
Roll call in 20 minutes. Where is Mia? There it was, the first ripple. In my first life, Mia had been beside me. Today she was not. 28 heads turned toward the door behind me. I kept my face neutral. She came with my aunt by car. Mr. Zhao frowned. She isn't here. I walked to my desk and began arranging my pencils. Then she may be on the way. A girl in the second row whispered, Mia late? On final day. Another answered, maybe traffic. I did not join. I aligned my eraser with the corner of my desk. I checked my admission ticket. I placed my bus card under my pencil case where I could see it. Small.
Blue. Mine.
At 7:43, Mia burst into the classroom with wet hair, flushed cheeks, and a panic so theatrical even the wall clock seemed to pause. Behind her, my aunt stormed in despite the sign that said parents prohibited beyond staircase. Teacher Zhao. Something is wrong with the gate system, she announced, loud enough for 3 classrooms. Mr. Zhao's shoulders sagged. Parents can't enter during exam control. My aunt ignored him. Mia clutched a plastic temporary visitor slip in one hand and her admission ticket in the other. She looked at me, and for 1 second, hatred flashed so bright through her tears that I almost felt warmed by it. Then she turned back into the trembling cousin everyone knew. Teacher, I'm sorry. My bus card disappeared this morning, and the West Gate guard wouldn't let me in because I didn't have student access verification. Mom drove to the East Gate, but there was traffic, and then the system said I needed manual confirmation, and then she covered her mouth. The classroom softened around her. A few girls murmured, "Poor Mia." My aunt pointed at me. "Ask Sarah." She refused to help her own cousin. They lived together. She knew Mia had no card. The old scene tried to rebuild itself, but with one missing brick. My card was still on my desk. Mr. Zhao turned to me with the weary look of an adult hoping a child would sacrifice herself to make the room easier. Sarah, is that true? You refused to lend your bus card? I stood slowly. In my first life, standing had made me look confrontational. This time, I moved like I had all morning in the world. Yes. The classroom stirred. My aunt looked triumphant, like confession was guilt. I continued before anyone could shape the silence. Because my bus card is linked to my own campus access record, and today's exam notice says students must not lend identification link materials. I used my card to enter at 7:24 through the East Gate. I also printed my entry record from administration. I took the slip from my admission sleeve and placed it on Mr. Zhao's desk. His expression changed. Not dramatically, not enough for most students to notice, but I saw the inconvenience shift sides. Now the paperwork belonged to Mia. My aunt sputtered. What kind of child prints evidence against family? I looked at her. The kind who wants to sit her exam. Mia's face crumpled beautifully. Sarah, why are you making it sound like I wanted your card for something bad? Her voice shook. I just needed to get to school. I turned to her, letting the whole class hear my answer. Then why didn't you use your phone wallet? Why didn't you ask your mother before we left the apartment? Why didn't you check your card last night when Annie reminded us twice? Why did you only realize inside the elevator after Mrs. Han entered? The questions landed one by one, and with each, Mia looked a little less like a drowning girl and a little more like someone splashing on purpose. My aunt snapped. Enough. She was nervous. Mr. Zhao rubbed his forehead. All right, this is not the place. Mia, go to the administration office and get manual student verification. Parent, please leave campus. Mia's eyes widened. But final roll call, the wall clock read 7:49. Final roll call was at 8 o'clock sharp. Building C to administration to exam hall verification, and back could be done in 8 minutes if you ran, and if nobody asked questions. But Mia was not good at running toward responsibility. She was only good at running away from consequences. Here was the pattern interrupt my first life had never given me. I raised my hand. Teacher Zhao, may I say something before she goes? He looked irritated. Briefly. I faced the class, then Mia. Since my aunt is saying I should have lent my card, I want to make my position clear in front of witnesses. I did not lend Mia my bus card today. I will not lend Mia my bus card today. If any campus scanner shows my card leaving or entering anywhere after 7:24, please check the security footage because I am in this classroom. The room went dead quiet. A boy in the back whispered, "Damn." Mr. Zhao's eyes sharpened.
Mia's lips parted.
My aunt looked like I had thrown ink on the family portrait. You little parent, Mr. Zhao interrupted, suddenly more official than he had sounded all morning. Please leave. Because now, if anything happened, he could not say nobody warned him. Now, if the card moved, the problem would not be my attitude. It would be the school's security. Mia looked at me with wet eyes, but she no longer seemed sad. She seemed cornered. I sat down. My bus card remained under my pencil case. For the first time in 2 lives, the trap had teeth on both sides. Mia missed the final roll call by 3 minutes. Not 30. Not 20. 3. That was what made it perfect. If she had been very late, everyone could have blamed traffic. If she had been absent, everyone could have blamed disaster. But 3 minutes was the kind of lateness that makes sympathy uncomfortable. At 8 o'clock, Mr. Zhao called names. Each student answered present. When he reached Mia Chen, silence spread across the room like spilled water. He called again.
Mia Chen.
A girl near the window looked at me, then away. At 8:02, footsteps pounded in the hallway. At 8:03, Mia appeared at the door, hair stuck to her face, manual verification slip in hand, chest heaving. Here, she gasped. I'm here. Mr. Zhao looked at the clock. The assistant examiner beside him looked at the rules sheet. The loudspeaker chimed exactly then, as if the school itself had dramatic timing. Final roll call for all senior examination rooms is now complete. Late candidates must report to the discipline office for review.
Mia froze.
Her hand, still holding the slip, slowly lowered. In my first life, that announcement had buried me. In this life, it passed over my head like rain over glass. She tried to enter anyway. Of course she did. People who survive by being exceptions always reach for the door after closes. Teacher Zhao, please, it was only 3 minutes, she said, breathless. The gate delayed me. The office delayed me. My cousin refused. Mia, Mr. Zhao said sharply, because my printed entry slip was still on his desk and my earlier statement still hung in the air. Report to discipline review first. That is the procedure. Mia looked at the assistant examiner, then the class, then me. Her eyes begged me to move, to speak, to soften, to save the familiar shape of our lives. The old Sarah would have stood. The old Sarah would have said, Teacher, it's my fault too. The old Sarah would have swallowed poison to stop everyone from watching Mia choke. But the girl sitting at my desk had already died once from kindness without boundaries. I picked up my pencil and wrote my name on the top of the answer sheet, as if nothing in the world existed beyond the black line waiting for ink. Mia made a small sound. The door closed. Her footsteps retreated down the hall. And the exam began. For the first 20 minutes, I answered almost nothing. Not because I didn't know the questions. I knew them too well. In my first life, I had studied for this mock final like it was the doorway to heaven, and when they barred me from sitting it, the unused answers had rotted inside me for years. Now the paper lay open under my hands. Mathematics, section first. Functions, sequences, a geometry proof about a circle tangent. My fingers trembled, not from fear, but from the impossible feeling of being allowed to continue. Outside, rain tapped against the windows. Somewhere in the building, Mia was crying in an office. Somewhere, my aunt was calling relatives, arranging the first draft of the story where I became selfish and Mia became unfortunate. Somewhere, the old future waited like a road blocked by a gate I had finally refused to open. I inhaled, pressed my pencil to the page, and began writing. Once I started, I did not stop. My thoughts sharpened. My memory from 2 lives overlapped with my 17-year-old training, and every answer came like a door unlocking. Pattern recognition question. Solved. Reading comprehension trap. Avoided. Essay prompt about integrity in competition. I nearly laughed. I wrote about how integrity is not proven by sacrificing yourself to dishonest people, but by refusing to help dishonesty become normal. At 10:30, when the exam ended, the classroom burst into the usual exhausted noise, but around me there was a strange bubble of caution. Nobody immediately asked what happened. That was new. In my first life, after Mia accused me, classmates had surrounded me with questions that were not questions at all. Why did you lend it if you needed it? Why didn't you tell the teacher earlier? Did you really get jealous? This time, they glanced at my bus card, still under my pencil case, and then at the empty desk where Mia should have sat. Evidence changes the shape of curiosity. It does not always make people kind, but it makes them slower to attack. I packed carefully. Mr. Zhao called me to the front before I could leave.
His voice was low.
Sarah, did you know Mia would be late? I looked at him. I knew lending my card could create problems for me. That's not what I asked. Then ask what you mean. His mouth tightened. Teachers dislike students who answer precisely. Your aunt claims you deliberately refused to help because of personal conflict. I slipped my pencil case into my bag. My aunt is allowed to claim what she wants. I followed the exam notice. He tapped the printed entry record. Why did you print this? Because I expected my decision to be questioned. Why? I met his eyes. Because in this school, girls who cry are believed faster than girls who prepare. For a moment, Mr. Zhao looked almost embarrassed. Then the door opened behind us, and embarrassment vanished under fresh inconvenience. The discipline director, Madame Qian, entered with Mia behind her and my aunt behind Mia despite apparently being told to leave twice. Madame Qian was a thin woman with silver-rimmed glasses and a voice that could slice paper. In my first life, she had looked at me over those glasses and said, "Rules do not bend for personal drama." I had hated her for that. Now, seeing her direct that same expression at Mia, I felt something dangerously close to affection.
Sarah Lynn, she said.
You live with Mia, Chen? Yes. You refused to lend your transport card this morning? Yes.
Why?
Because it is linked to my school access record and the exam notice prohibits lending registered attendance materials. Madame Qian nodded once.
Correct.
My aunt's face darkened. Director, these are children. They are cousins. Are you encouraging her to be heartless? Madame Qian turned her glasses toward my aunt. I am encouraging students not to violate exam security. The sentence was so dry, so clean, so absolutely not interested in family theatrics that I wanted to frame it. Mia began crying again. But Madame Qian did not soften. Some adults, I realized, were not kind. They were useful in a better way. They were procedural. Mia's story had already changed twice. In the elevator, she said the card was missing. At school, she said it disappeared. In the discipline office, according to Madame Qian, she said she had left it in my room the night before because we studied together and I must have forgotten to return it. That was a clever adjustment. Not too aggressive. Not an accusation, only fog. My aunt seized on it immediately. Yes, they share materials all the time. Sarah is always moving Mia's things. Maybe she packed it by mistake. I tilted my head. Then we can check our apartment camera. My aunt stiffened. Mia stopped crying. Riverside Gardens apartment had a cheap living room camera my uncle installed after packages disappeared from the hallway. It faced the entrance, the dining table, and part of the corridor where school bags were kept at night. In my first life, I had never thought to use it because by the time I needed proof, my aunt had already deleted the footage, claiming storage was full. This morning, before leaving the bathroom, I had opened the camera app on my phone, downloaded the previous night's clip from 9 to 11 o'clock, and saved it to my private cloud. Death, if nothing else, teaches you which doors will be locked later. My aunt said, too quickly, the home camera is private. Madame Qian looked at her. You brought the family dispute into an exam security review. Relevant evidence is welcome. I took out my phone. Mia's eyes found mine. There was no softness left now. For the first time that day, she looked at me without tears. It was like seeing a doll sit upright by itself. Sarah, she whispered, so low only I could hear. Don't. A small word. Almost gentle. But under it was the old command. Protect me. Lose for me. Make yourself smaller, so I can remain pitiful. I tapped the video. The clip opened with the familiar grainy view of our apartment entrance. Last night, 9:37 p.m. I appeared first, placing my exam bag on the chair, taking out my bus card, showing it to the camera deliberately though nobody in the room had noticed at the time. Then I put it into the small inner pocket of my blazer and zipped it shut. At 9:52, Mia entered the frame, glanced toward the hallway, then toward the living room where my aunt watched television. She opened her own bag, took out a bus card with a pink charm attached, looked at it for a long moment, then slipped it into the side pocket of her chemistry folder. Not lost. Not missing. Not in my room. Her own hand. Her own card. Her own choice. At 10:14, while everyone else was busy, she took the same card out again and tucked it into the bottom drawer of the shoe cabinet near the door. Then she walked away. The discipline office went silent. Not quiet. Silent, as if every object had stopped pretending not to understand. My aunt stared at the screen, her face draining color unevenly. Mia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Mr. Zhao leaned closer, then stepped back like the phone might burn him. Madame Qian watched the clip until the timestamp reached 10:16, then said, "Play the part again." I did. The second time was worse for Mia, because shock no longer protected her. The movement looked deliberate now. Smooth.
Practiced.
She had not hidden her card like someone confused. She had placed it like someone preparing evidence for later. My aunt tried first. Maybe she was tidying. Madame Qian raised one finger. My aunt stopped. Mia tried next. I don't remember doing that. I was nervous. I must have put it there by mistake. Then why did you tell us it disappeared from your bag? Madame Qian asked.
Mia swallowed.
I thought it had. Why did you tell me it might be in Sarah's room? Because we studied together. Why did you ask for Sarah's card instead of checking the shoe cabinet before leaving? Mia's eyes filled again, but this time the tears had nowhere to land. Everyone had already seen the machinery. I forgot, she whispered. Madame Qian removed her glasses, wiped them with a cloth, and said, "How convenient." That should have been victory. In simple stories, that would be the moment the liar collapses, the adults apologize, and the wronged girl walks into sunlight. But real families are not simple stories. Real families will step over a smoking gun to ask why you brought bullets. My aunt recovered first, because mothers like her could forgive any cruelty from the child they favored as long as the unfavored child was available to blame for exposing it. Even if Mia made a mistake, she said, voice shaking with anger. What kind of cousin records and stores family footage? Were you waiting to ruin her? I looked at her for a long moment.
No.
I was waiting to not be ruined. She slapped me. Not hard enough to injure, but loud enough to turn the hallway outside still. My cheek snapped sideways. My phone nearly fell from my hand. In my first life, that slap outside the administration office had shattered me because I still wanted my mother to defend me. This time, the pain was bright, immediate, almost clarifying. I turned my face back slowly. Madame Qian's voice cracked through the room. Parent Chen, step outside.
Now.
My aunt pointed at me, eyes red. You are poisonous. You lived under my roof, ate my food, and now you repay us by destroying Mia's future? I touched my cheek.
No, auntie.
I repaid you by finally letting Mia carry what she packed. Mia did not get to sit the first exam. Procedure held. Her missed final roll call triggered a discipline review, and because the video showed deliberate concealment of her own card followed by an attempt to pressure another student into lending attendance link material, her case escalated from lateness to suspected exam control manipulation. Those words mattered. Lateness sounded pitiful. Manipulation sounded ugly. The school did not like ugly words attached to its final mock exam. By noon, the vice principal was involved. By 1, my mother had been called. I saw her arrive through the discipline office glass wall, still in her supermarket uniform, hair flattened by rain, face full of the same tired fear I remembered. My chest tightened despite everything. In my first life, I had waited for her like a rescue boat. She had arrived and asked why Mia would lie. That question had drowned me more surely than the school did. Now she entered, looked first at my aunt crying into tissues, then at Mia hunched in a chair, then at me standing alone by the filing cabinet with a red mark on my cheek. Her eyes stopped there. "Who hit you?" she asked. The room shifted. My aunt stiffened. Mia looked up quickly. I had prepared for disbelief, for scolding, for that old exhausted sentence. Sarah, don't make things harder. I had not prepared for my mother's voice to go cold. I asked, she said. Who hit my daughter? It was the first time in either life that anyone in my family said my daughter, like it meant protection instead of responsibility. My throat closed so suddenly I had to look down. My aunt began speaking at once. Sister, you don't understand. Sarah has been acting strange all morning. Mia was already panicking, and she refused to lend a simple card. Then she humiliated us with camera footage, and now Mia's exam. Who hit her? My mother repeated. She did not shout. That made it worse. My aunt's mouth pressed shut. Madam Chen answered. Mrs. Chen struck Sarah during the review. Staff witnessed it. My mother turned to her sister.
They were not really sisters by blood.
My aunt was my father's older cousin's wife, but in our family, every older woman became auntie if she wanted authority. My father had died when I was 8, and my mother, desperate and poor, had accepted my aunt's offer to let me live near Riverside High because the district school near our rental was weaker. For years, that roof had been used as proof that I owed them obedience. My mother had believed it too, or maybe she had needed to. She looked at my aunt now as if seeing the bill for the first time. You hit my child because yours hit her own bus card? My aunt's face twisted. Mia was scared. My mother stepped beside me. So was mine. Mia began sobbing then, but differently. Less controlled. More desperate. Auntie, I didn't mean for it to become like this, she cried to my mother. I just panicked. I thought if Sarah lent me hers, I could get in, then I would give it back. I wasn't trying to hurt her. That was the safest confession she could offer. Small panic, no malice. My mother looked at her, and I watched the old softness fight its way across her face. Mia had grown up calling her Auntie Lon, hugging her at New Year, praising her cooking, saying she wished she were as hardworking as her. My mother loved children who seemed to need her. That was how I lost her in the first life. Mia needed louder. I waited, every muscle tight. My mother asked, Then why hide your own card the night before? Mia's sob caught. I don't know. Why blame Sarah? I didn't blame her. Madam Chen cleared her throat. You stated the card may have been in Sarah's room. Mia's eyes darted. My mother's face changed again, slowly, like a door closing. Mia, she said, did you plan for my daughter's card to be used instead of yours? Mia shook her head violently. No, my mother looked at me. Sarah, tell me clearly. Did she ask you for your card this morning? I nodded. In the elevator. In front of Mrs. Han. My mother exhaled. Then we call Mrs. Han. Another pattern broke. In my first life, evidence had always been treated as cruelty. This time, my mother reached for it herself. Mrs. Han arrived by phone first, then in person because she enjoyed drama more than vegetables. She confirmed every word with relish. Mia announced the missing card after she entered the elevator, asked for mine, cried when I refused, and my aunt scolded me for selfishness. The lobby security uncle confirmed hearing the argument. The East Gate record confirmed my entry. The home camera confirmed Mia hit her card. The administration slip confirmed I had anticipated a dispute before Mia arrived. One piece of evidence could be dismissed. 5 pieces formed a cage. By 2:30, the school issued its temporary decision. Mia would be barred from the morning exam score, allowed to sit the afternoon paper in a separate room pending investigation, and required to submit a written explanation. Her recommendation file would be frozen until the review concluded. Mine would remain unaffected. Unaffected, Madam Chen said, stamping the paper. Such a plain word for resurrection. My aunt collapsed into a chair as if the stamp had landed on her spine. Mia stared at the table, eyes dry now. I knew that look. It was not remorse. It was arithmetic. What had she lost? What could she recover? Who could still be moved? The afternoon exam revealed the second layer. Because Mia had failed to break me in the morning, she tried to bleed beside me. At 3:15, while we sat for the English paper, a folded note slid under my shoe from the aisle. I looked down. The handwriting was not Mia's, but I recognized the tiny heart shape above the letter I. Her best friend, Lila, sat 2 rows behind me. In my first life, Lila had been one of the first to whisper that I sabotaged Mia because I couldn't stand being second. I did not pick up the note immediately. I raised my hand. The invigilator walked over. "There's a paper under my desk," I said. The room stilled. The invigilator picked it up with 2 fingers, unfolded it, and his face hardened. "Whose is this?" Nobody answered. He read the first line aloud before stopping himself. Question 3 answer. A cheating note. Of course. A sloppy one, placed near my foot after morning drama, designed to make me look desperate or vengeful or both. Lila's face had gone white. Mia was not in the room. She was taking the exams separately. That made it cleaner. She could deny everything. I looked at Lila, then at the invigilator. "Please check the handwriting against students seated behind me, and please check the aisle camera." My voice was calm. My heart was not. Rebirth does not make betrayal painless. It only makes it familiar enough to name quickly. After the exam, Lila cracked before Mia did. She lasted 11 minutes in the discipline office. That was all. The camera showed her leaning down. The note's handwriting matched her practice essay margin notes. Her first story was that it fell accidentally. Her second was that she found it and tried to pass it forward. Her third, after Madame Chien mentioned suspension, was that Mia had texted her during lunch from her mother's phone, saying, "Sarah ruined me, help me scare her, just make them investigate her too." My aunt tried to snatch the phone. Madame Chien had already photographed the messages. There are moments when a person's mask does not fall dramatically, but becomes too heavy to hold. Mia sat in the corner of the office, listening as Lila sobbed and apologized, and her beautiful, fragile face hardened into something flat and adult. She did not comfort her friend. She did not deny immediately. She looked at Lila with the cold disappointment of a general watching a soldier surrender. Then, because every cornered liar eventually chooses attack, Mia lifted her head and said, "Fine." Asked her to put the note there. But only because Sarah has been trying to ruin me since morning. She knew how important this exam was to me. She could have helped me. She wanted me to miss roll call. My aunt gasped like this was a revelation instead of a strategy. My mother took my hand under the table. I held on so tightly, I probably hurt her. Madame Chien leaned back. "Mia Chen, do you understand what you just admitted?"
Mia esse nostris flerd.
"Do you understand what she did?" "She recorded me. She embarrassed me. She made everyone think I'm some criminal because I forgot a card." "You hid the card." I was stressed. "You attempted to frame another student with cheating materials." "Because she framed me first." "With footage of your own actions?" Mia's face flushed dark red. For the first time all day, she looked her age. Not a tragic heroine, not a delicate genius, not a poor, pressured child. Just a furious 17-year-old girl who could not understand why the world had stopped rearranging itself around her tears. I thought seeing that would satisfy me. Instead, I felt a hollow sadness open under my ribs. How many years had I spent loving the performance because I didn't know the real girl underneath? How many times had she laughed with me at midnight, shared chips under blankets, braided my hair before school photos, listened to me talk about universities, all while measuring where to cut if she needed to climb. Betrayal is not only the moment someone harms you. It is the retroactive poisoning of every tender memory that came before. My mother's thumb brushed my knuckles. I looked down and realized I was shaking. The school's final decision came the next morning. Mia's morning exam score was invalid. Her afternoon exam was held pending review because she had attempted to interfere with another student's exam environment. Lila received a formal warning and lost her class committee position. Mia's scholarship recommendation was suspended indefinitely. The school would notify the Provincial Summer Academy that her discipline review was active. My record was cleared in writing, though cleared felt strange because I had never been guilty. Madame Chien gave me a copy of the notice and said, "Keep this." Her eyes rested briefly on my cheek, where the slap had faded to yellow. "Also keep copies outside your home." That was the closest she came to kindness. I thanked her sincerely. Outside the office, the corridor smelled like wet umbrellas and disinfectant. Students slowed when they saw me. News travels in schools faster than illness. By lunch, Everyone knew Mia had hidden her own card. By last period, everyone knew Lila had planted a cheating note. By dismissal, 3 girls who had once borrowed my notes without returning them came to my desk separately and said things like, "I always thought Mia was a bit dramatic," which was a lie, but a useful one. Public opinion is not justice. It is weather. Still, after years of standing in the storm, I did not mind the sun touching my face for a minute. Home was worse than school. I did not want to return to my aunt's apartment, but my school books, clothes, documents, and the small box of things from my father were still there. My mother came with me. That mattered. She did not send me ahead. She did not say, "Endure for one more night." She walked beside me up the apartment stairs because the elevator felt too small after yesterday. My aunt opened the door before we knocked, eyes swollen, mouth tight. Mia stood behind her in a pale sweater, looking smaller without her uniform armor. For one foolish second, I remembered us at 12, sharing a single popsicle on the balcony, laughing because blue syrup stained both our tongues. Then Mia's gaze dropped to my mother's hand holding mine, and her expression curdled. My aunt stepped aside.
"Pack quickly," she said.
"Since you both think we abuse her, take everything." My mother did not argue. She had rented a single room near the market by noon, using money she had saved for my winter tutoring. When she told me, guilt stabbed through me so sharply I almost said I could stay. Almost. Then I saw the shoe cabinet drawer where Mia had hidden her card, and the guilt turned cold. Some houses are not homes. They are traps with family photos on the wall. Packing revealed how much of my life had been arranged around being temporary. My clothes occupied half a wardrobe because Mia needed the rest for competition outfits. My textbooks were stacked under the desk because Mia's printer took the shelf. My father's box was in the top cabinet behind old blankets, dusty but untouched. I took it down carefully. Inside were his fountain pen, a watch that no longer worked, a photograph of him holding me at 5, and a bus card from years ago with his name on it. I had forgotten that. My father had been a bus driver before he got sick. He used to tap his card against mine and say, "Little Sarah, never lose the thing that gets you home." I sat on the edge of the bed and laughed once, quietly, because the universe had a cruel sense of symbolism. Mia appeared in the doorway. My mother was in the kitchen arguing with my aunt over deposit money, so for the first time since the elevator, we were almost alone. Mia looked at the box, then at me. "You think you won," she said.
"No tears, no tremble."
Just the real voice, low and sharp. I closed the box. "I think I left." She leaned against the doorframe. "You don't understand what you've done." "I understand exactly." "No," she said, smiling slightly, and that smile pulled something ugly across her face. "You think because the teachers believe you today, everything changes. But people don't like girls like you. Hard girls. Cold girls. Girls who keep evidence. They'll clap for you once because it's entertaining, then they'll get scared of you. They'll wonder why you were ready. They'll wonder what else you recorded. They'll wonder whether you're safe to be around." It was a good attack because it held some truth. I had learned in my first life that innocence does not make a girl lovable once she has defended herself too well. People want victims clean, surprised, forgiving. They do not know what to do with a victim who brings timestamps. I stood and slipped my father's box into my bag. Let them wonder.
Mia's smile faded.
You used to care what people thought. I used to think people thinking well of me would protect me. And now, I walked toward her. She did not move, so I stopped close enough to see the tiny crack in her lower lip from biting it. Now I know locked pockets work better. She slapped the doorframe with her palm. "I missed the final roll call because of you." There it was. The title of her version, Simple and False. I looked at her hand, then her face. "You missed it again." Her eyes sharpened. "What?" I should have kept quiet. The rational part of me knew that. Rebirth is a secret with no safe explanation. But the word slipped out because some wounds have waited years to speak. "Again," I repeated softly. "Middle school district math contest. You borrowed Jenna Wu's temporary pass because you said yours was wet. She got marked absent from the finalist briefing. You cried. She apologized to you. Everyone forgot. Mia's face went still in a way that chilled me more than her anger.
Who told you that?
Nobody who matters. That was years ago. So you remember. The silence between us changed shape. For the first time, Mia looked at me not like an obstacle, but like a locked room she had discovered occupied. What else do you know? She whispered. I smiled, not kindly. Enough to stop lending things. My mother called my name from the hallway. I stepped past Mia with my bag over my shoulder. She did not try to block me. The first night in the rented room, rain hammered the tin awning outside so loudly we had to raise our voices over dinner. The room was barely larger than my aunt's kitchen. 2 narrow beds, 1 folding table, a hot plate, a wardrobe with 1 crooked door. The wallpaper peeled near the window. The bathroom smelled faintly of bleach and old pipes. My mother apologized 7 times before I put down my chopsticks and said, "Mom, stop." She froze. I had never spoken to her sharply before. Not in that tone. Not with that much exhaustion. I softened my voice. Please stop apologizing for leaving. Her eyes reddened. I should have taken you out earlier. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to give the hurt its full name. You should have believed me in the first life. You should have seen me. You should have asked why I was always the one giving things away. But this mother had not yet made those mistakes. Or maybe she had made smaller versions, the kind poverty excuses until they become habits. I looked at her tired hands, cracked from detergent and cold storage work, and chose the truth we could survive. We're out now. She covered her face. When your father died, I thought sending you there gave you a better chance. It did, I said. Now, leaving gives me one. The next week became a battlefield of whispers, but not the kind Mia expected. She returned to school after 3 days with pale makeup, a medical note for stress, and a new story polished by adults. She had suffered an anxiety episode, hidden her card unconsciously, panicked, and made poor decisions under pressure. My aunt spread it through parent groups with impressive speed. By Monday morning, several teachers had softened. Mr. Zhao told the class to avoid harmful speculation. The school counselor visited Mia. Someone left a note on her desk saying stay strong. I watched all of it without surprise. Consequences frighten communities because they imply anyone could deserve them. Sympathy restores comfort. If Mia was sick, then nobody had to admit she was cruel. If she was pressured, then nobody had to ask why pressure always seemed to make her harm other people. She walked through the hallway with her eyes lowered, accepting pity like a queen accepting flowers after a public illness. But pity did not reopen her recommendation file. Pity did not erase Lila's messages. Pity did not change the timestamp. And pity did not put my bus card in her hand. She came for my academics next. That was predictable. Mia had always treated grades as territory. If she could not take the exam cleanly, she would poison the meaning of my score. 2 days after results posted, my name appeared first in the grade. First overall. Mathematics, full marks. English essay selected as model response. Science second only because of 1 diagram label. In my first life, those marks had never existed officially because I had never been allowed to sit. Seeing them printed beside my name made my knees weak. I stood in front of the bulletin board while students pressed around me, murmuring, "Sarah beat Mia by that much?" Mia has no morning score. Still, Sarah's math is insane. Then a voice behind me said, "Well, of course she did well." She had nothing else to focus on except proving a point. Mia stood there with 2 girls beside her, face pale, smile tired. It was an elegant line, not an accusation, a stain. I turned. "That's true," I said. The hallway quieted because nobody expected agreement. I continued. I focused on the exam. That is usually how exams work. A boy laughed before he could stop himself.
Mia's smile tightened.
"You know what I mean." "I do," I said. "You mean I should feel guilty for preparing while you were explaining why you hid your card?" The laughter spread. Mia's eyes flashed. Weather changed again. But winning in public did not mean I was safe. That afternoon, I found my locker open. Not broken. Open. Whoever did it knew my combination. In my first life, I had shared it with Mia because she said her locker shelf collapsed and she needed somewhere to store art supplies. This time, I had not shared it, or so I thought. The door hung slightly ajar, and my folders inside were rearranged. Nothing obvious was missing. That made it worse.
A stolen book is a theft.
A moved paper is a message. I did not touch anything. I photographed the locker from 3 angles, then walked to the security office. The guard looked annoyed until I said the words exam interference and ongoing discipline review. Useful phrases are like keys. Within an hour, hallway footage showed Mia's new shadow, a quiet boy named Aaron from class 12-2, standing near my locker during lunch while another student blocked the camera with a poster board. Aaron had once liked Mia. Maybe he still did. The footage did not show his hands clearly, but it showed enough for the teacher to call him in. He denied everything. Then security found my copied locker combination written on the back of his physics formula sheet. He said Mia gave it to him. Mia said he misunderstood. Aaron said she told him she only wanted to check whether I was storing stolen materials from her.
Mia cried.
Aaron cried harder. The teachers looked exhausted. I requested a new locker and a written record. Madam Qian approved both. That evening, my mother changed the lock on our rented room, even though the landlord said the old one was fine. She also bought me a cheap secondhand phone to use only for backups. You keep evidence, she said, placing it on the table like a weapon. Keep it properly.
Certa här.
You believe me that much? The question escaped before I could make it less pitiful. My mother looked hurt, then accepting, as if she knew she had earned the question. I am learning late, she said. But I am learning. I cried then. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just one of those ugly silent cries that bends the body forward, because there is nowhere else for the grief to go. My mother sat beside me and held my shoulders. I wanted to tell her about the first life, about the convenience store,
About the van.
about seeing Mia on television wearing my future like a borrowed coat. But some truths are too large to hand someone who is already carrying rent, food, guilt, and a daughter shaking apart over a bus card. So I said only, I was so tired. She pressed her cheek to my hair. Then rest for tonight. Tomorrow we fight smaller. Tomorrow did not fight smaller. Tomorrow brought the Provincial Academy email.
Dire sera là. Congratulations.
Based on your final mock ranking and teacher recommendations, you have been shortlisted for the Provincial Young Scholars Summer Program. Please attend the interview on Friday. I read the email 3 times before understanding that the universe had not simply returned what I lost. It had opened the door Mia once walked through wearing my name. My hands went cold. In my first life, Mia's acceptance to the academy had been the first domino after my disqualification. The academy led to a mentor. The mentor led to a competition. The competition led to university. The university led to television interviews about perseverance. Now the email sat in my inbox, addressed to me. I should have been happy. Instead, I felt watched by the ghost of my own ruined years. What if I failed the interview? What if Mia found a way to interfere? What if this life corrected one event only to punish me for wanting more? Fear after betrayal is not ordinary fear. It has memory. It can describe the exact shape of the knife before anyone reaches for it. I forwarded the email to my backup account, printed 2 copies at school, gave one to my mother, and submitted the confirmation form from the library computer while the librarian watched. Then I changed every password I had. Mia found out by lunch.
Of course she did.
Schools leak information through pride before malice even needs to try. Mr. Zhao congratulated me in front of the class, perhaps to make up for earlier weakness, perhaps because my ranking made him look good. Applause scattered around the room. Mia clapped too, slowly, with a faint smile that made my stomach tighten. After class, she approached my desk. Congratulations, cousin. The word cousin sounded like a threat now. I zipped my bag. Thank you. The academy is difficult. Interviews matter more than grades. I know. They ask about character. I looked up. She tilted her head, eyes bright with false concern. You should prepare an answer for why your family situation became so messy right before selection. They don't like unstable students. In my first life, she had called me unstable in front of the school counselor after I cried from being disqualified. It had stuck. Teachers began watching me like I might break into pieces and inconvenience them. This time I smiled. Good advice. You should prepare an answer too in case they ask why your recommendation file is frozen. Her jaw tightened. You've become cruel. No, I said, standing. I've become specific. The interview panel consisted of 3 adults in a conference room that smelled like new carpet and bottled water. 1 professor from the provincial university. 1 education bureau officer. 1 academy coordinator with a tablet. In my first life, I had imagined Mia in rooms like this, speaking smoothly, impressing everyone. Now I sat in the chair across from them with my hands folded and my bus card tucked into the inner pocket of my blazer, not because I needed it, but because I liked the reminder. The professor asked about my math solution. The coordinator asked about my essay on integrity. The bureau officer, who had clearly read something about the discipline review, asked, "You recently reported an attempted violation involving a family member. How has that affected your view of cooperation?" There it was. Mia's shadow entering the room before me. I could have given a polished answer about fairness. Instead, I told the truth carefully. I used to think cooperation meant giving whenever someone asked. Now I think real cooperation requires clear responsibility. If I help someone avoid the consequences of their choices, I may not be helping them. I may be helping them harm others. In a team, I will share knowledge, effort, and support. But I will not share identity, accountability, or blame. The professor's pen paused. The coordinator looked up from her tablet. The bureau officer nodded once. That is a mature distinction. I breathed again. When I left the interview room, Mia was waiting in the lobby. Not officially. She had no reason to be there. Yet there she sat on the pale sofa in a white blouse, hair neatly pinned, looking like a girl from a scholarship brochure. For half a second, the old fear moved through me so violently, I tasted metal. Had she spoken to someone? Had she brought my aunt? Had she found some new angle? She stood when she saw me. "Relax," she said. "I'm not here to ruin your interview." I said nothing. She laughed softly. "You don't believe me anymore at all." No, the honesty struck both of us. Her expression flickered. "I came because my mother wanted to submit an appeal document to the bureau, since they're reviewing my academy eligibility." Of course. She had not come to ruin me directly. She had come to rescue herself beside the same door. "Good luck," I said and walked past her. She caught my sleeve. My whole body reacted before thought. I twisted away so sharply that 2 people at reception looked over. Mia's hand hung in the air. Something like hurt crossed her face, but by then I no longer trusted hurt that arrived on command. "Sarah," she said quietly, "do you ever wonder if you're taking this too far?" I looked at her hand, then her eyes. "You tried to make me look like a cheater 3 days ago." Because I was scared. Everyone is scared. My voice lowered. Only some people plant notes. Her face changed. "You think you're better than me."
No liar.
"I think I'm responsible for me and you're responsible for you. That feels like superiority only because you're used to outsourcing consequences." She stared at me. Then she laughed once, cold and disbelieving. "You even talk like a teacher now. Maybe one day." I had never said that aloud. In my first life, after everything collapsed, I stopped imagining any future clearly. Medicine, research, teaching, writing, business. Every ambition became a shop window I passed on the way to work. Now the words appeared without permission. Maybe one day. Mia heard the hope and hated it. "You won't survive being hated," she said. "You think I won't?" She leaned closer.
I know you, Sarah.
"You act cold now, but you're soft. You need people to tell you you're good. When they stop, you'll come back. You always do." For years, that would have been true. Even after she ruined me, some part of me had wanted Mia to admit it, hug me, say she panicked, say she loved me, say the girl I remembered had existed. Rebirth had not killed that part completely. It had only put it behind glass. I looked at her and said, "Then hate me properly. I have an interview result to wait for." The acceptance came at 6:12 p.m. on Friday. My mother and I were eating noodles from chipped bowls when my phone buzzed. I read the first line and forgot how to swallow.
Congratulations, sera là.
You have been selected. My mother grabbed my wrist.
What?
What is it? I turned the phone toward her. She read slowly, lips moving, then covered her mouth. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The rented room was still ugly. The wallpaper still peeled. The hot plate still clicked strangely when it cooled. But something invisible had shifted, like a window opening in a house I thought had no air. My mother began crying. I began laughing. Then I cried too, because joy after long injustice is not clean. It comes mixed with grief for the version of you who never got the email, who stood outside the exam hall holding proof nobody wanted, who walked home in rain years later with an empty bus balance and headlights in her eyes. I wished I could reach backward and show her the screen. I wished I could tell her, keep the card. Keep yourself. One day the word congratulations will belong to you. Mia's appeal failed the same evening. I knew because my aunt called my mother 14 times. My mother did not answer until the 15th, then put the phone on speaker and set it on the table between us. My aunt's voice filled the room, raw and furious. Are you satisfied now? Sarah got in and Mia is suspended. You must be very proud. My mother looked at me, then said, I am proud that Sarah sat her exam honestly. Honestly? My aunt spat. She destroyed her cousin over a bus card. My mother's face hardened. Mia destroyed herself over a bus card. The line went silent. I stared at my mother. In my first life, I had begged for a sentence half that strong and received none. My aunt recovered with a sob. We raised your daughter for 2 years. You housed her, my mother said. You did not get the right to hurt her. Mia may lose everything. My mother closed her eyes briefly. Then maybe she will learn what everything costs. She ended the call. The silence afterward felt enormous. I whispered, You'll get blamed by the family. She picked up her chopsticks with shaking fingers. I have been poor, widowed, tired, and blamed before. I can survive blamed. Academy summer began 3 weeks later in a city 2 hours away, but the story did not pause neatly until then. Mia remained at school, but something around her had cracked. The girls who once orbited her still walked with her, but more carefully, as if afraid the floor beneath her might collapse and take them too. Teachers remained sympathetic, but less trusting. Mr. Zhao stopped asking me to share materials with her. My aunt stopped sending messages through my mother after being ignored for several days. For a while, I thought Mia might retreat. That was naive. A person who builds her life on borrowed cards does not stop because one scanner catches her. She only searches for a gate without cameras. The next attempt came disguised as reconciliation. On the last Friday before Academy, Mia placed a small paper bag on my desk before morning study. Inside was a milk bread from the bakery near our old apartment and a note.
Sarah, I'm sorry.
I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you eat breakfast. We used to like these. The classroom watched from the corners of its eyes. Public apology. Soft object. Shared memory.
Perfect.
If I rejected it harshly, I became cruel. If I accepted it, she reopened the story of us. I looked at the bread for a long time. Then I took out my phone, photographed the note and bag, and placed them back on her desk. Thank you, I said evenly. I don't accept food from people currently involved in my discipline complaint. The room gasped. Mia's eyes filled instantly. It was just bread. Then eat it. Her face went white. That was enough. Too enough. A murmur moved through the class. Mr. Zhao, who had just entered, stopped at the door. What's happening? I pointed to the bag. Mia brought me food. Given the recent attempt to frame me with a cheating note, I'm declining it. Mia stood so quickly her chair scraped. Are you insane? Do you think I poisoned bread? I looked at her. I think I don't want anything from you in my body, my bag, my locker, or my record. Someone laughed nervously and then stopped. Mr. Zhao approached, took the bag, and said, Mia, don't bring personal items to Sarah again. Mia shook with humiliation. You're all treating me like a criminal. I said nothing. Mr. Zhao said, quietly but firmly, then stop creating situations that require records. That sentence landed harder than anything I could have said. Mia stared at him as if he had betrayed her personally. In a way, he had. Convenient adults follow the path of least trouble, and I had finally made truth less troublesome than pity. Later, I found out from Lila that the bread had not been poisoned, not in the dramatic sense. It had been bought with Mia's own money, untouched, safe to eat. The trap was emotional, not physical. If I accepted, she would tell everyone I had forgiven her privately, but kept punishing her publicly. If I refused, she would cry that I treated her like a monster. She had not expected me to name the situation so plainly that the choice itself became evidence. Lila told me this in the library, standing between shelves of old magazines, eyes swollen from too many nights of regret. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know that doesn't fix anything." I looked at her for a long moment. In my first life, Lila had helped bury me with rumors. In this life, she had cracked early enough to stop worse damage. Accountability is not the same as forgiveness. I was learning that too. "Why did you help her?" I asked. Lila wiped her nose with her sleeve. "Because she made me feel chosen. Like if I protected her, I was special." She laughed bitterly. Then when I got caught, she looked at me like I was stupid. That sounded like Mia. Not because Mia never loved anyone, but because she loved people most when they were useful mirrors. I said, "Don't apologize to me again unless you're also changing." Lila nodded. "I am trying." "Good. Try away from my desk." Academy was supposed to be escape. For 10 days, I lived in a dormitory with girls who did not know my aunt, did not borrow my bus card, did not ask whether Mia was really that bad, did not remember me as the cousin who always gave in. The campus had old stone paths, ginkgo trees, classrooms with projectors that worked, and a library that smelled like paper instead of dust. My roommate was a girl named Noor who wore silver glasses and labeled her socks by day of the week. On the first night, she asked, "Do you snore?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "Fine. If you do, I'll record evidence." I laughed so suddenly she looked alarmed. Evidence, in her mouth, sounded ordinary. At Academy, we solved problems until midnight, argued over proofs, built a simple environmental sensor, and attended lectures from professors who spoke to us like future colleagues instead of exam machines. For the first time in years, including the stolen years of my first life, I felt my mind stretch without fear. Nobody called me cold for being careful. Nobody called me selfish for keeping my materials, nor once asked why I photographed every submitted form. I said, "Habit." She said, "Smart," and went back to labeling wires. But Mia entered even there because consequences travel slower than ambition. On the 4th day, the academy coordinator called me into her office. My stomach dropped before she finished saying my name. On her desk lay a printed anonymous report. It claimed I had severe interpersonal conflict, possible surveillance tendencies, and a history of creating hostile environments for peers. There were screenshots attached, cropped from class group chats, showing me saying things like "I don't accept food from people involved in my discipline complaint," and let them wonder. Without context, I looked harsh. Not guilty, perhaps, but sharp enough to make adults uncomfortable. The coordinator, Ms. Run, watched me carefully. "Do you know who submitted this?" "I can guess." "Would you like to explain?" In my first life, questions like that had made me panic because I believed explanation had to sound soft to be believed. Now I took out my folder. Hard copies. Discipline notice, Mia's written admission excerpt, Lila's statement, locker incident record, teacher note about the bread. Ms. Wren's eyebrows rose slightly as I placed them on the desk, one by one. "I don't expect you to take my word for it," I said. "So I brought records." She read for almost 15 minutes. I sat still, hands folded, while the clock ticked above a bookshelf full of award plaques. Outside the office window, academy students crossed the courtyard laughing, carrying notebooks and bubble tea. I wondered whether normal 17-year-olds understood how light their bags were when they contained only books. Finally, Ms. Wren looked up. "This is thorough." "I've had to be." The anonymous report suggests you may struggle with trust. I nodded. That is true.
She seemed surprised.
I continued. I do struggle with trust. But I don't struggle with teamwork. My project group can confirm I complete my tasks, share data, communicate changes, and document decisions. I do not lend personal identification items. I do not accept private gifts from people who have tried to frame me. If that is considered a problem, I need to know now. Ms. Run leaned back, studying me. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled.
Non, sera.
That is considered a boundary. The word boundary entered me like warm water. Not cold, not cruel, not difficult.
Boundary.
A line that protected life. A line that proved there was something inside worth protecting. I swallowed hard. Thank you. She tapped the anonymous report. We will not act on unsupported claims. But be aware, whoever sent this may escalate. I almost smiled. She usually does. The escalation arrived 2 days later in the most Mia way possible, through praise. The Academy held a mid-program presentation where each team explained its project. My group sensor design performed well, and I presented the calibration section. Afterward, a visiting professor asked who had written the error analysis, because it was unusually clear.
Nor pointed at me.
I felt my face heat as the professor said, "Excellent work." That evening, an Academy forum post appeared under a newly created account. Isn't it inspiring that Sarah Lynn overcame a troubled family background and learned to be strong? Some people are shaped by hardship. Attached was a photo of me from school, cropped from a class picture, and a paragraph describing how I had been abandoned by relatives after conflict, but continued bravely. It looked supportive. That was the poison. It exposed private pain under the language of admiration. It made me a story without permission. Comments began kindly, then curiously. What conflict? Is she the girl from Riverside? Didn't something happen with her cousin? I stared at the screen in the dorm common room, heat crawling up my neck. Nora leaned over my shoulder, read for 5 seconds, and said, "That is disgusting." I laughed once, because relief can sound strange. She did not ask if it was true. She recognized the violation before the gossip. This time, I did not defend alone. Nor screenshotted the post. 2 teammates reported it. Ms. Run had it removed within 20 minutes and traced the account registration to a phone number ending in the same digits as my aunt's old backup number. Not Mia's direct number. Careful. Family adjacent. Plausibly deniable. But enough. Ms. Run called me in again, not to question me, but to ask, "Do you want the Academy to send a formal notice to your school and guardian that harassment of participants will affect external recommendation privileges?" Guardian. For a moment, I saw my mother in our rented room, counting coins for laundry, buying me backup phones, learning to fight late, but sincerely. "Yes," I said. "Please send it to my mother too." The notice went out that afternoon. My mother called me after dinner, voice shaking not with fear, but rage. "Your aunt says she knows nothing about any post. Maybe she doesn't. Do you believe that?" No, my mother was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I filed a police consultation today. Not a case yet. A record." I sat down on the dorm bed. "Mom, you keep records. I can learn." I pressed the phone to my forehead. "I love you." The words came out before embarrassment could stop them. She inhaled sharply. "I love you too, Sarah." The Academy ended with awards, group photos, and a certificate I held with both hands because paper can be heavier than people think. I did not win first place. Nora's team did, and she deserved it. My group received outstanding analysis, and the visiting professor wrote a note recommending me for a winter research mentorship. Not a promise. Not a miracle.
A path.
I returned to Riverside with a folder full of documents and a strange, new steadiness. Mia was waiting at the school gate on Monday morning. Of course she was. She looked thinner, but not weaker. Her hair was tied simply. No tears today. Students flowed around us, pretending not to slow down. "You got the Academy to threaten my recommendation privileges," she said. I adjusted my bag strap. "You posted about my private life. I praised you. You exposed me. Same thing, depending on the angle. There was the real Mia again, almost smiling. I should have walked away. But the gate scanner stood beside us, green light blinking, and something about it made me stay. Why? I asked. Not because I didn't know, but because I wanted to hear what shape her honesty had when nobody gentle was watching. Mia looked toward the gate. Because you were mine first. The words were so strange I stared. She continued, voice low. Before the teachers praised you.
Before the academy.
Before everyone decided you were some brave boundary girl. You were my cousin. My helper. My proof that I mattered. For a second, pity moved through me. Not forgiveness. Not softness.
Pity.
How empty did someone have to be to mistake another person's sacrifice for love? I was never yours, I said.
Mia esse mouth twisted.
You acted like it. That landed because it was true enough to hurt. I had trained everyone, including her, to expect my surrender. Every time I gave in with a smile, I taught her the door opened if she pushed correctly. That did not make her innocent, but it made my freedom feel less like betrayal and more like withdrawal from a contract I had signed without reading. I acted like I didn't belong to myself, I said. I was wrong. Mia looked at the scanner. Do you know what the worst part is?
What?
If you had lent it, I would have returned it. I almost laughed. After scanning out, her eyes flicked to mine. There it was. Confirmation, tiny and late. I would have fixed it.
No, Mia.
You would have watched me fail to prove it. You don't know that. I stepped closer, lowering my voice.
Ido.
Because I already lived like I couldn't. Her face went pale. For one suspended second, the noise of the gate seemed to fade. Then someone bumped my shoulder. The moment broke, and I walked into school after scanning my own card. The final attack did not come from Mia directly. It came from the adults who wanted peace more than justice. 2 weeks after academy, the school scheduled a family mediation without asking me first. I received the notice from Mr. Zhao at the end of class. Attendees, Sarah Lin, guardian Ms. Lin, Mia Chun, guardian Mrs. Chun, homeroom teacher, counselor, discipline representative. Purpose: restore healthy family-school communication before graduation term. Restore is a dangerous word. It assumes the old shape was healthy enough to deserve return. My mother took one look at the notice that night and said, "We don't have to go." I thought about it. In my first life, meetings happened around me, over me, through me. Adults translated my pain into inconvenience and called the result maturity. This time, I wanted the record.
We go, I said.
But we don't go alone. My mother raised an eyebrow. The next day, I asked Madame Qian if discipline representation meant her.
She said yes.
I asked whether I could bring documented evidence and request written minutes. She looked at me for a long second, then said, "You may." Was that approval in her voice? Maybe. Or maybe procedural adults enjoy prepared students the way gardeners enjoy sharp tools. Mediation took place in Conference Room 2, a beige room with a round table designed to make unequal people feel equally trapped. The counselor opened with a gentle speech about misunderstandings, exam pressure, adolescent emotions, and the importance of rebuilding trust within family systems. My aunt nodded dramatically. Mia looked down. My mother sat beside me with a folder in front of her. Madame Qian sat near the door, silent and terrifying. Mr. Zhao looked like he regretted every career choice that led him here. The counselor smiled at me. "Sarah, would you like to begin by sharing how this conflict has made you feel?" That was another trap, though perhaps unintentional. Feelings are easier to smooth over than facts. I opened my folder. I would like to begin by confirming the meeting minutes will record specific incidents accurately. The counselor blinked. Of course, but today is about healing. Healing requires not being asked to deny harm. Madame Qian's pen moved. My aunt sighed loudly. "See? This is what I mean. She speaks like a lawyer now.
No worms.
No family feeling." My mother said, warmth did not protect her. The counselor's smile weakened. Mia finally looked up. They wanted apology choreography. Mia would cry. I would admit I had been harsh. Our mothers would agree pressure, harmed everyone. The school would close the file with language about mutual hurt. Then Mia's recommendation privileges might thaw before winter. I could see the outline before anyone drew it. The counselor turned to Mia. Mia, would you like to express remorse? Mia nodded, tears forming on schedule. Sarah, I'm sorry I asked for your card. I was anxious and I made mistakes. But after that, you treated me like an enemy. You exposed me again and again. You wouldn't accept my bread. You reported everything. You made it impossible for people to forgive me. Her tears fell. I know I was wrong, but you wanted me punished forever. There it was. Not I harmed you, but you refused to let harm disappear quickly. The counselor looked at me with soft concern.
Sera?
I took out a printed page and slid it across the table. This is a list of incidents with dates. Hidden bus card, false statement implying my room, attempted cheating note, locker interference through errand, public food trap, anonymous academy report, private life forum post. Which of these should I have left unreported? The room went still. The counselor looked at the page but did not touch it. Mia's tears stopped halfway down her face. My aunt exploded. You made a list? Yes. Of your own cousin? Of incidents affecting my exam record, school safety, and privacy. You are sick. Madam Qian looked up. Careful. My aunt swallowed whatever she had planned to say next. The counselor tried to recover. Perhaps we can separate accountability from punishment. Mia has experienced consequences, and maybe Sarah can consider what she needs in order to move forward. I can answer that, I said. Everyone looked at me. My hands were steady now. I need no private contact from Mia.
No gifts.
No messages through classmates. No discussion of my personal life in school or online. No requests to share materials without a teacher present. No family pressure about my exam decisions. I need the school to keep all discipline records factual, not emotional. I need my mother contacted directly for anything involving me. I need my aunt removed as an emergency contact. My aunt made a strangled sound. My mother nodded. Approved. Mr. Zhao wrote quickly. The counselor looked overwhelmed. Mia stared at me with something like disbelief, but under it, fear. Not fear that I hated her. Fear that I had become unreachable. That, more than any punishment, was what she could not stand. Those are not healing requests, Mia said softly. I looked at her. They are survival requests. You make me sound dangerous. You made me need precautions. Her face crumpled, but I no longer felt the hook. The counselor asked if I could imagine rebuilding a cousin relationship in the future. My aunt leaned forward, hungry for the answer. My mother's hand hovered near mine, but did not touch, letting me choose. I thought of the first life, the gate, the office, the slap, the convenience store television, the headlights. I thought of the second life, the elevator, the scanner, the bread, the forum post, the round table full of adults trying to sand my boundaries smooth. No, I said. One syllable. Same as the elevator. Same locked door. Mia inhaled as if struck. The counselor looked pained. Never is a strong word. I didn't say never. I said no. Today's answer is no. If that changes in 10 years, I'll know. But I won't promise future access to make everyone comfortable now. Madame Qian's pen paused. My mother looked at me with tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. Maybe pride sometimes looks like grief leaving the body. The meeting ended without reconciliation, which meant it ended honestly. The minutes recorded my requested boundaries. My aunt refused to sign at first, then signed after Madame Qian noted refusal would also be recorded. Mia signed with a hand that shook, not delicately for once, but with anger. Outside the conference room, she caught up to me near the stairwell. Are you happy? She asked. I turned. Sometimes. That answer seemed to confuse her. You ruined my life. No, stop saying no like that. Her voice cracked, echoing up the stairs. You think one word makes you powerful? I considered this.
No.
Keeping it does. She laughed, harsh and wet. I hope one day you need someone, and they refuse you the way you refused me. There it was, the curse every boundary receives. May you be abandoned too. In my first life, it would have pierced me. In this one, I thought of Nora reporting the forum post, my mother changing the lock, Madame Chien stamping the notice, Mrs. Han testifying because gossip accidentally served truth, even Mr. Zhao learning to prefer records over tears. I will need people, I said. But I won't ask them to disappear for me. I walked down the stairs before she could answer. Graduation term arrived with colder mornings and thinner patience. Mia's rank dropped. Not catastrophically, she was too smart for that, but enough that the myth of her effortless brilliance cracked. Without borrowed notes, emotional rescues, and teachers quietly extending deadlines because she was under pressure, she became what she had always feared, capable but not exceptional. I, meanwhile, became quieter, not colder. There is a difference. Coldness freezes everything. Quiet keeps heat where it belongs. I studied. I visited the winter research mentor twice. I helped classmates during group sessions, but never gave away originals. I lent pens and explained problems, but I wrote my name on my calculator and kept my card in my zipped inner pocket. Some students called me intense. Some called me smart. Some avoided me. I survived all three. Lila eventually rebuilt herself at the edge of the class, less shiny, more sincere. Aaron transferred lockers and stopped looking at me. Mr. Zhao wrote my recommendation letter with the sentence, "Sarah demonstrates exceptional academic discipline and principled independence." I read that phrase 3 times, laughing under my breath. Principled independence. A school-safe way to say girl who finally stopped handing out knives and apologizing for bleeding. The final university entrance exam came on a bright morning after rain, the kind of morning that makes every puddle look like a second sky. My mother walked me to the bus stop even though I told her she didn't have to. She wore her supermarket uniform because her shift started right after, but she had pinned a small red ribbon to her collar for luck. At the stop, she pressed a warm boiled egg into my hand. "Protein," she said awkwardly, and we both laughed because Auntie's old breakfast favoritism no longer owned the gesture. The bus arrived. I scanned my card. The beep sounded exactly the same as it had on the day of my rebirth. Ordinary. Mechanical. Holy. At the school gate, students crowded forward with admission tickets and transparent pencil cases. Mia stood near the west entrance with her mother. Our eyes met across the crowd. She looked away first. Not defeated, exactly. Not redeemed either. Just separate. That was enough. I scanned in, held my card beside my face for the camera out of habit, and entered. Final roll call began at 8 o'clock. When my name was called, I answered, "Present." My voice did not shake. When Mia's name was called in another room, I heard later, she answered too. Good. Let her arrive with her own card. Let her sit with her own name. Let both of us discover what we could do. When I stopped carrying her across lines she had chosen not to respect. Years later, people would ask me when my life changed. They expected me to say the exam, the academy, the scholarship, the university acceptance, the research prize, the day my mother opened her own little stationery shop with a blue sign and a card scanner at the counter because she said cash-only businesses felt too easy to cheat. Sometimes I gave them one of those answers because they were simple and made people smile. But the truth was smaller. My life changed in an elevator between the 10th and 9th floors, with a neighbor holding vegetables and my cousin crying beside me, when I put my hand over my pocket and said no. Not loudly. Not perfectly. Not without fear. A rebirth sounds dramatic, but mine was not thunder. It was a zipper closing over a bus card. It was a girl deciding that family did not mean shared fingerprints, shared blame, shared identity. It was understanding that kindness without self-respect becomes a public resource people will drain and then blame for running dry. I did not become cruel. I became difficult to steal from. And if Mia missed the final roll call again, that was no longer proof that I had failed to save her. It was proof that, at last, I had arrived on time for myself.